Here's an interview from one of our past shows on Rock and Metal Revival. If you're interested in hearing full shows, go to our Facebook page and check out our list of affiliates for times and places where you can hear Rock and Metal Revival. There's Sahara from the upcoming release from Joe Satriani called Elephants of Mars. And with us today, it is an honor to be speaking with guitar hero Joe Satriani. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Joe, now, this is your 18th album release, and I mean, that is a lot of music. I mean, so many bands and artists are done after 1, 2, it seems. So how have you stayed so creative and prolific over these years?
Oh, wow. I'm really blessed that I wake up every morning extremely nervous about whether or not I'm going to play as good as I did yesterday or write something as interesting as the day before. So I hate to say it's a neurosis, but
Yeah.
I guess it's just the artistic temperament. You know, I'm always on the prowl for a new riff and a new sound, and I want to get as good as I can get because there's so many great guitar players out there.
Nice. And a lot of them are inspired by you, so that makes it a little harder.
I'm honored anytime another fellow musician likes what I'm doing and feels inspired. That's always great.
Now, there's a lot of different types of music on here, and I was surprised. I like how a lot of the songs have like a lot of different elements going into them. And is that something you were looking for on this one? Because the last album was more rocking. You know, this one's got a lot of different stuff going on.
Yeah, no, that is a really good perceptive comment there, because I felt like when we had to sort of shut down the touring plans behind the last release, which was Shape-Shifting that came out in April of 2020, I kind of, was sitting at home, twiddling my thumbs thinking, wow, the last couple of years and the last few releases, I was really focusing kind of on a classic rock thing, purposely eliminating certain styles, certain production techniques, and focusing my playing, as you said, like on more rocking collections of songs. And I thought, I think I've done it now, and I'm going to take the opportunity that I have sitting at home by myself to dream up an entirely new direction for me. And it wasn't all that new. I'm still, turning my guitar really loud and going play, crazy with it. But you can't really, you can't run away from who you are. I'm just a rock and roll kid. So
Yeah.
But I really did want to do a couple of things different. So this is what I did. I set a couple of sort of benchmarks that I had to reach, and I said, okay, I'm going to write better songs. I'm going to arrange the songs better. I want crazier production ideas coming from the whole team as well as myself. I definitely want to try to play guitar better and get more interesting sounds. And I thought, okay, no reason to, shy away from trying to attain all of those goals because I've got all the time in the world. And it really turned out to be a blessing for me because, I'm kind of basically a shy guy. And even when I'm in the studio with the other band members or producer, engineer, I can't help but kind of react to the room, like how they're reacting to what I'm playing. And I started to think, wow, I bet I could get something else to happen if I record all this by myself and there's no one else in the room. I won't feel so embarrassed when I make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I won't feel shy if I need to get really emotional about something, and then I need more time, hours, days, whatever, to get the right performance. And once that started working, I told everybody in the band, I said, look, just do this. Don't worry about the clock on the wall or a calendar date where we have to return anything, to the label. We've been given this sort of carte blanche to just make a great album. So, don't send anything back to me until you think you've reached some new level yourself, and then we'll collect it and collate it and get it all together. And that's what really allowed everyone to kind of, stretch out and show their true colors on all these songs. And it made the album quite a unique adventure.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, Joe, Jerry and I were just talking because we've been listening to this album for the last couple of days, and your bass player on this album is a monster. Whoever's playing.
Yeah,
yeah.
dude,
I mean,
everybody on it
yeah.
is just amazing.
Is the band that was in the studio with you going to go on this European tour that you got coming up?
Well, there's good news and bad news about that.
Okay.
The good news is that bass player Brian Beller is in fact a monster. We call him the Beast, actually. That's his nickname on the tour. This is the second record he's done with me. We've done a whole bunch of touring in the last 5 years or more, and he's plays all the bass on the album. He did all of his stuff on his own in his own home studio, which is again was the idea was to let Brian really stretch out and show us what he has. So I'm so happy you mentioned that because he is stellar, and I was always the guy sending messages to the mix engineer saying, "Turn the bass up,
need more bass."
more bass." So that's great. Kenny Aronoff is on drums, on everything. We have a keyboard player. His name is Ray Thistlethwaite. He's from a band called Thirsty Merc. I don't know if you guys play any of their stuff. They're like a platinum act from Australia.
Okay.
Really great rock band. And Ray is an amazing lead vocalist. He just happens to be a phenomenal keyboard player and guitar player as well.
Right.
And then my producer, Eric Codio, who's been working with me on and off since '96, is also playing keyboards and a few exotic instruments, as well as producing on this album. Anyway, the four main members, Brian, Kenny, Ray, and myself, will be out on tour this coming September. We're doing about 9 weeks across the U.S.
Nice.
The bad news is that this week I had to go public with canceling our European tour. We were due to do 9 weeks. It's going to start up in about 2 weeks from now, actually. And we just couldn't get all the COVID restrictions and controls together for all the countries we were going to. And, coincidentally, we were going to a lot of Eastern European countries that are now in the sort of like hot zone because of this conflict between Ukraine and Russia. So it's just the whole thing, I can't believe this is the third time that we've gone back to our friends in Europe and said, please, can we just come back next year? Same dates, same venues, just wait another 12 months. But that's the world we're in right now. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the song "The Elephants of Mars" is really cool. I like the way it starts out with the really cool riff, and then in the middle it just it gets really mellow, and then it goes back, and it really takes you on a cool ride. But like the sound of your guitar, the solo section on your guitar, what are you using as an effect? I hear a wah-ish kind of thing, but doesn't sound like a wow pedal.
No, it's a really crazy effect. And you know what? I played that once and recorded that as a test, and it just sounded so freaky that we left it just the way it was. So it was like one of those crazy one-take things.
Nice.
So, all right, I'll try to, make this as crystallized as possible for you. So I had this idea because I had this song and this sound with this weird, alien elephant sound, and I came up with a story about Mars being terraformed in the future, and unbeknownst to the scientists, they had created these sentient, gigantic elephants that get really angry that the Earth scientists and corporations are just mining the hell out of this beautiful new terraformed Mars. So together with the new Mars colonists, they put together a revolution led by this guitar-playing colonist, of course, and to make Mars free and keep it a new beautiful planet. So this was the story I told everybody, if you can imagine. But it really helped get everybody in the mood, to do some crazy performances. The guitar is actually me going direct in stereo.
Okay.
And one side is my main guitar going into Pro Tools, and what you hear in the left channel is the Sans amp, sounding like it's a really loud Marshall or something like that. The right channel, I put through this funny little electro-harmonics pedal called a micro Qtron. and that's basically like an envelope filter. But I have to say, this is a funky little pedal. Like every pedal that Electro Harmonix makes is really wonderfully funky. Like it's never sterile, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it does things kind of like 96% of the time.
Nice.
And when I plugged it in and I was fooling around with it, I thought, oh, I like the fact that this pedal kind of malfunctions, you know, like 4% of the time, because then it just creates this variation that takes you by surprise. So after like 30 seconds of the guitar solo, just when you think you figured out what the sound is, all of a sudden it just sort of malfunctions, and you go, wait a minute, what was that? You know? And so when I was doing that one take, it was over a new version of the song where we extended the song, but it was sort of arbitrarily extended, and it didn't really end correctly. It just sort of petered out. So I just kept playing because it sounded so much fun, you know? And then we get to the end, and that was the end, and I listened to it, and I said, well, that's finished then, isn't it?
Nice.
When I sent it off, and Kenny played to it, he just played to exactly what I played, and then Brian added his part, and then Ray in Australia added his part. It sounds like he's in Deep Purple. It sounds like John Lord, you know, playing all the way through.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really interesting how, you know, we recorded these things because we were doing them separately and remotely from each other, but it really created an opportunity for everyone to be really creative in a different way.
Now, Joe, when I sit down and I listen to your albums and I look at the titles of the songs and I listen to them, and I as I'm listening to the song, I'm like, okay, where did Joe come up with this title? Like, I mean, where did the title The Elephants of Mars come from, or some of the titles? I mean, where do you come up with the titles of your songs?
You know, most of the time I get inspired musically and intellectually and emotionally all at once. It's really hard to describe and break it up into one category. You know, like with a song like Sahara, I kind of knew as soon as I picked up the guitar that I was going to write about this particular character that was lost. And in my mind, it was sort of like John Lennon, Kurt Cobain, Jared Leto kind of singer, you know, where they can sing words, but the sound of their voice is telling you something else. And those singers, they have a unique quality, especially Jared, who's, you know, he's got those eyes on screen that can tell you so much, you know, when he's acting. He doesn't have to say much, you know, and I guess I'm running this little movie in my head about this guy who feels, you know, like he's lost inside, and he's also lost walking down the street in the middle of the night, and he's kind of searching for something. So, and then I guess I took a little poetic license in thinking like, well, it's like he's in the Sahara Desert by himself, even though his settings, you know, geographically aren't the Sahara Desert. He might as well be in a desert because he's got nothing, and he's grabbing at straws trying to figure out what to do, and he's looking for help. And, you know, so all that descends on me in an instant, and I think, okay, got to do some microtonal bending on the rhythm guitar. So I pick up the 12
I like that.
string,
Yeah, it's just
and
a
that gives
little
that
slight
kind of
bend, gives it a weird, weird
it
sound.
Gives you,
yeah, it's cool.
It gives you that sort of weird North African feeling.
Yeah.
And then just the pounding drums is him walking down the street, like, you know, heavy-footed, and he's just like looking for something, relentlessly, searching. And I actually wrote lyrics and the whole thing, and when I sent it to Ray, I think I scared the hell out of him, because I'm not good at writing lyrics. I should admit that. But eventually we decided, hey, why don't we, maybe we should rewrite this and as an instrumental. So it took me a couple of weeks to figure out, like, okay, how do you get all that emotion into a melody without the help of words? And that's probably the hardest thing for an instrumentalist, is to convey a message without the help of lyrics,
Yeah, definitely. Now, I got a question from one of my guitar playing buddies when I told him I was talking to you. He wants to know, what's the most challenging piece of music you've ever composed?
Oh, okay. Two answers for that one. Number one, the most difficult thing to play over and over again to get right are the slowest ballads. Those are the hardest. It's kind of like when you go to do, in a way, like you do in the Star Spangled Banner, like, before a football game or something like that. Everybody in the audience and in TV land, they all know the song like note for note.
Yeah.
If you make one mistake, you will be famous for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost a thankless job, because when you play it perfect, no one ever talks about it. But when you screw it up, it's like it becomes, front page news. So the ballad is the same way, because you're inviting people in with this song saying, come close and share this tender moment. So, boy, you better not screw that up. There's no alternative way really to play it. You've got to really sort of drive straight down that road and don't take any weird turns. Now, if you're going to play a song like Satch Boogie or something like that, you basically have the freedom, because of the style of the music, to kind of play all kinds of things in there, because it's a boogie, it's up-tempo. Those are the main elements of the song. So the audience kind of says, have some freedom, have some fun, But there were songs that were really difficult when I wrote them, and I couldn't play them. So perfect example is a song from the Flying in a Blue Dream album called The Mystical Potato Head Groove Thing, which I can't, I don't have a good excuse for that title. It just came to me. But when I got the idea that the chorus could be these really crazy sounding arpeggios, I realized that I couldn't play them. So I called up my engineer, John Cunninberty, at the time, and I said, look, I got this new song, and I really want to put it on the album, but it's going to take me at least 3 weeks to prepare for it. And so we waited, and we didn't, we took a break from the production of the album, and all I did was play this damn song like 8 hours a day until I was like so ready. And then we, one day we went in there and I could nail those arpeggios, and to some degree, when you write something really hard, you better be prepared for, what happens if people like it, because you have to play it.
Exactly.
Oh, but I do love it, even though it's still, I need to like really get ready. If it winds up like on a set list for a tour, I've got to spend a couple of weeks getting reacquainted with it.
Joe, that's a question I wanted to ask you. With the shape-shifting album caused, with the tour ending with the pandemic, and now you're looking at almost 3 albums worth of new material to add to your set list. How do you pick out a set list for a tour?
Oh, it's so hard. A good way that, a formula that we've been using after about, the 6th or 7th album, was to think that, number one, you've got hardcore fans that have seen you on every tour. You've got fans who have never seen you before, and they're just checking you out, and maybe they're never going to come back, so it's just a one-shot. And then you've got maybe even a more hardcore fan that is really looking for something that you've never played before, And so what you do is you say, okay, let's take, the bulk of, maybe a third of the show is going to be the greatest hits, if you're lucky to have some. And you can go to Spotify or Apple Music and just whatever, and check to see what are the most streamed songs, to get an indication of what people really do like to listen to over and over again. And you can say, okay, I got to play, Surfing with the Alien, Always with Me, Always with You, If I Could Fly, Thunder High in the Mountain, whatever it might be that's in that top 10, let's say. And then you take a look at all the songs that are new, that you think are really stage worthy, because not every song that works on an album is going to work in the middle of a set or at the beginning of a set. Sometimes you get lucky, like when we did What Happens Next tour, the first song on the album, Energy, and it was the perfect song to start every show with, High Energy. It was great. Not every tour works out that way. Flying in the Blue Dream was great that way. We started every show with that. It's a great opener. So you got to work that out. And so when you have an album like The Elephants of Mars and it's got 14 songs on it, it's, that could be an entire show all on itself. So you got to kind of figure out which songs are better left alone as album tracks, and which ones can really get better when they're played live. And then you say, okay, what's left? How about those songs that we've never played or haven't played in 25 years? Let's bring that out and just put a smile on the face of some of those super hardcore fans who have been waiting for that song, for decades.
Very cool.
And that helps keep the shows really interesting for the band as well as the audience.
Now, Joe, I wanted to ask you about the G3 shows that you used to do. Any plans on doing either that or the other thing I wanted to ask you? The only time I've ever gotten to see you play was with Chickenfoot. Is that a dead issue, or is Chickenfoot just taking a hiatus?
No, I think Chickenfoot is definitely not a dead issue. It's funny you should say that because I'm just looking at a text from Sammy today, as a matter of fact. He's crazy. He's buying one of my paintings that I'm showing at the Wentworth Galleries, and so I think that we're all so busy with our stuff. Like Sammy's got a great new album coming out in a couple of months that he's done with the Circle. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows I'm in the middle of bringing out a new album. Chad and the Chili Peppers have already started the release of their album, beginning their world domination tour.
Yeah.
So everybody loves to just keep doing what they're doing. So finding time is always hard. But having said that, every time Chickenfoot has gotten together in the past, it's been like so random. Like somebody makes a phone call. 24 hours later, we're in a room together. We record 3 songs in 2 days, and then we don't see each other for a month. That's kind of like how it's always been. So that makes it very possible that something could, all of a sudden spring up. But I'm sure it won't happen in the next 6 months because everyone's so busy with their new releases.
Yeah. One final question. This one's really serious now. The song "Waiting" on the Shape-Shifting album.
Yeah.
Yeah, really mellow, nice. You think that song could have benefited from maybe adding some cowbell?
Is that what that's missing? I knew it was missing something.
Yeah, just a little bit of lack in there.
A little, it would have just sort of kicked up the energy a little bit.
Yeah.
Though, I tell you, the funny thing about cowbells, people don't know this. They think there's one kind of cowbell. There's a million kind of cowbells.
Wow. Yeah.
And then the way that you hold it in your hand is what really determines how much it rings and what the overtones are.
Uh-huh.
And wow, it's amazing when you give like a cowbell to like a drummer, suddenly it becomes an instrument, and you give it to a guitar player, and it's like, well, that's just a cowbell.
Yeah, yeah, it's thunk. There we go.
But I've put plenty of cowbell on songs across my catalog, so we've definitely laughed about this in the studio.
Nice. But
there is what sounds like a cowbell on that album, and it's a song. It's the last song on the album. Called Yesterday's Yesterday, and it actually has a truncheon. I think that's what they call it. Those metal poles that stick out of the ground, like in parking garages to stop people from parking. Yeah. Well, there's one inside of Jim Scott's studio, because he's got basically a warehouse studio. And when we were looking for something and we were laughing about the whole cowbell joke, he said, I do have this truncheon out there, so we made him go out there and play it.
Nice. Well, Joe, we have really appreciated having the opportunity to talk to you today. We love the new album,
definitely,
the Elephants of Mars. We can't wait for everybody else to hear it. And we're going to play another track off it called Faceless. And Joe Satriani, you are always welcome on this program.
Red and Jerry, thank you so very much.